good day for miners for the most part, right? Bitcoin obviously didn't do that great, but it didn't do that bad either. So it was kind of a strange day today with the miners going up, Bitcoin kind of stalling a little bit, actually going down a little bit. So is this one of those situations where the miners are actually front running Bitcoin? We don't know. We'll have to see. We've seen this before where the miners actually did better than Bitcoin, where Bitcoin was going down and the miners were actually going up. And then eventually Bitcoin was going up and the miners were also going up at the same time. So we'll take a look at that. We'll look at the charts, obviously, on Bitcoin, the miners as well. We'll look at some stats on the Bitcoin network, the hash price, the network hash rate, all that stuff here coming up. We'll also take a look at the operation updates for, what do we have? Digital, CORZ, Hut8, Iren, and Riot, the 5 of them for today. So there's a lot that we're going to go through, right? I'm going to try and get through those as quickly as possible, and then we'll get obviously into the Q&A side of things as well. But as always, you guys know the drill here. This is never financial advice, right? For him only. And this is my full disclosure for you guys here. And if you enjoyed this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. And let's get into what's going on here with the markets or with Bitcoin charts and things like that. We'll get into Bitcoin and all that, and we'll get into the news. So on this one, we're looking at the total hash rate of Bitcoin right now, and this is on the 1 day chart. We can see here that we're still not really falling that much, right? On the 1 day, we are at 608 exahash right now. So there's really not much of a change. I think with the average is still pretty good. Average has coming down on the 7 days. We are at about 600 or so exahash on the 7-day average. If we look at the 30-day average, we're still kind of high here at 625 exahash right now. So that might come down here a little bit in the next couple of days or something like that if the 7-day average stays around 600 exahash or so. So not a big decrease in the network hash rate, especially after the halving event, or barely any decrease in that, okay? Next here is going to be the BTC fees per day. We did have a nice little spike here on Sunday, but those obviously have come back down here today to where it's been more or less the last couple of days prior to that. Right, Bitcoin transaction fees for today ended up at 40.47 BTC per day. Okay, so that's kind of where that's sitting at right now. Then we got the hash rate price right now, hash price, and you can see obviously they came up here over the weekend on Sunday, and then it's obviously been falling back down here. So we're back down to about $49 per petahash. Now it's $50 per petahash USD. We did get to a high here on Sunday of 58. Right, but it's come back down, and that was attributable to the network transaction fees being added into it as well. Okay, going into here, Bitcoin. Bitcoin, obviously, like I said today, it went up in the morning hours, but then it came back down throughout the day. You can see here that we had a high today of approximately 65,523, and then it came back down and actually closed below our support line here that I have at 63,700, and we're kind of battling with that line a little bit here. We closed above it on Saturday and Sunday. We closed obviously today below it, so we'll see if we can get back up above it. That would be a good sign. If we don't, we're obviously going to be coming back down to possibly like 61,000. See if we can bounce off of that and continue on forward. Right, but the miners, on the other hand, the miners had a really good day here for the most part, except for a couple. Looks like 4 of them were down. Argo was down less than 1%. DMG was down about 2.5%. Hive was just basically flat today. Stronghold was down 6.55%. Then we had others like Marathon. Marathon was up 20-some-odd% at one point during the day, finished out at 17.9, so almost 18% up. Then we had Iren up being 12%, right? Wolf was up 10% also. That was great to see here. Cleanspark was up about 8%. Cypher was about 8% as well. And overall, we had some other miners that were in the 2%, 5% here for Bitfarms. Digital was only up 4%. Annie was up 3.9, almost 4% there. So maybe this is where the miners are starting to front run Bitcoin a little bit. We have seen this in the past, especially on days like where Bitcoin's coming down, but the miners are actually going up, right? So sometimes the miners do front run Bitcoin, and I'm wondering if this is one of those events here, but obviously time will tell. So in the next couple of days, we'll obviously see the results of that, if that is the case or not. Otherwise, tomorrow, if the miners go down, Bitcoin goes down, well, then that's not the case, okay? So that's it for that. Let's get into our stories that we do have here. The first one's going to be on Iren. So Iren is going to be releasing their third quarter results and host conference call on May 15th. This is obviously really good news because in the past they were only reporting biannually, every 6 months. Now we get to actually evaluate them quarterly like their peers, right? All of their peers report quarterly, and now they are too. I think this is a good sign for the company, and I think this will obviously give them a little bit more interest as well with institutions and things like that as well. So that'll be happening on the 15th. We'll obviously cover it when it does happen. I'll try to listen on to the conference call if I can at that point, and we'll take some notes and see what we have to offer as far as information on it. Next is BitDigital announces monthly production updates for April. So here's the details here. The company produced 119.3 BTC. That was a 12.5 decrease compared to prior month, and mostly attributable to obviously the network hash rate. Not the network hash rate, but the halving event, right? Active hash rate was approximately 2.76, so that was a slight increase from the prior month, so that was good. BTC holdings of 992.4 BTC, so that was good there. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. There isn't anything really else here. They're still staking Ethereum. They have 17,184 Ethereum staking, and their BitDigital earned a blended API of approximately 1% on its staked Ethereum position for the month of April, right? Not too much on that, but still better than nothing. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's take a look at BitDigital here on my sheet here, and we'll go through this and get into the next one here. So shares outstanding right now is about 107 million for them. Their market cap is about 245 million. Stock price as of today was 229. The performance over the last 12 weeks hasn't been great. They're down 13% from 12 weeks ago, 28% from 8 weeks ago. From 4 weeks ago, they're down about 8%, and then last week they were down 4.76%. Their current hash rate is pretty close to being fully installed. Now they're at 2.76 exahash. Their future hash rate is at 2.79. They have stated that they want to grow to 3 or 6 exahash by the end of the year. We don't have any purchases for them as far as miners are concerned, ASIC miners. So when they do that, obviously update this, but this is kind of what we have them at right now. Their BTC HODL is 992.4. That's valued at 61.1 million right now. And that's about 25% of their market cap is their HODL position on it. Okay. Monthly production here for BTC, that has been coming down every month here for the most part. They had a little bit of a bump here in April, which was kind of nice to see. Obviously, I think some other miners had a little bit of a bump as well, but I think they installed some more hash rate. They actually didn't install any hash rate in that point. I think they were just operating more efficiently at that point. But we've come down to 119 BTC here for the month of April. That's down 17 from the prior month here. Their monthly Bitcoin revenue peaked in March, 9.23 million. April came down to 7.86, so it's their second best month here so far in the last 12 months. Their BTC HODL has been increasing, which is nice to see as well. That's up to 992, like they stated. And that was obviously from the low in October where they were at 511 at that point. So it's been increasing steadily ever since then, which is good. Hash rate, 2.76. So we have seen some increase here, obviously month over month, about 30 petahash roughly. BTC sold, they only sold 84, so they didn't sell everything that they mined. They did stack some more into the HODL position. BTC per exahash efficiency, very efficient here in this month, 43.21. And the BTC sold value came in at about 5.5 million. Going down here, these are the quarterly results. We'll get into those when they actually report those numbers coming up. And then we have obviously institutions side of things here. Institutions did increase to 168. Shares increased to 49.7 million as well, and the percentage increased to 46.6 million. We still have one strong buy rating, 3 buy ratings. Price targets stay the same, $6 for the high, 508 for the average, and 450 for the low. Going down here as far as what they were mining for the month of April, based on my numbers and based on Bitcoin average price and what they mined, I had them pretty much running for a full month here, 30 days on the miners, and the new miners that I got installed, about 20 days on average. That's kind of what I figure for these miners, and I got us to the 7.589 million. And that coincides with the 7.57859. Well, so I'm off actually 300,000. I need to add 300,000 to this one. So it looks like they got 300,000 more in Bitcoin transaction fees. Okay, 3859.59. So this should be probably 279. Let's see if that gets us to it. 7859. 7859. I'm off by 300. So okay, 1309. Doing math in my head on the fly. Let's see, 7859. Okay, there we go. So that's how we got there. Let's see what else we have here. Miners that got installed obviously were the 111 terahash miners. It looks like here on those, and we didn't uninstall anything here overall. Their current efficiency looks like it's about 27.6. Right, that's an estimate based on the manufacturer's information on the miners that they purchased and things that I could gather for them. Going up here, we can see here that currently, based on the current quarter that we're in and the 3 prior quarters, which includes the Q1 results, which are estimated, and then the Q4, Q3 numbers as well, I have them between $4.63 to $6.94. They're at $2.29. I do think that they are way undervalued just on the Bitcoin mining itself. Then you add on top of that the AI side of things, which we don't really know how profitable that is. But let's just say the profit margins on that are 25%, right? If they're 25% based on that, going forward, so they were at 16 million here approximately. 16 million at 25%, what is that approximately? 4 million additional in revenue, right, on top of it all. So if we add combined total plus another, well, this would be only for 1 quarter, so we'd have to actually do it for like possibly 4 quarters. So we're looking at another 16 million. So let's just add another 16 million to it here on top of this. And then we'll see what that kind of looks like if that was the case. So we got 16 million. So now we're looking at $5.75 to $8.62. So I think definitely we're undervalued. Obviously, if the profitability on AI is much better, then we could do obviously much better on the numbers as well going forward. But we'll have to see when they actually report the numbers for them. Okay, so that's it for Iren, or BitDigital, sorry. Overall, like to see them grow some more, right? Growth is, I think, the key here with investors more so than anything else. They want to see that, even though once we maybe get some good numbers for the AI side of things, that might also change for that thing. But right now it's just an unknown, and until we get that, we'll have to obviously evaluate at that point. Okay, so that's it for BitDigital. Let's get into our next one here, which is going to be on Core. So Core Scientific announces April 2024 production and operations updates. And here's what we have from them. Here's a quote from them. We surpassed 20 exahash of energized self-mining hash rate in April after completing the planned deployment of S21 miners and temporarily energizing prior generation miners at data centers where they can operate profitably, said Adam Sullivan, right, CEO. Strong cash generation enabled us to pay off $19 million in debt associated with mechanics, liens, and begin completion of 72 megawatts of partially built infrastructure at our Denton, Texas data center. So that's good news there. This expansion is part of our multi-year growth plan to add 372 megawatts of new infrastructure, which represents more than 20 exahash of new hash rate. So that's obviously a great goal to get there if they can do it. So that would get them to possibly like around 40 exahash total if they can do that based on what they have right now. Okay. Self-mining Bitcoin earned was 803. Bitcoin hosting, they got 265. We don't count that. That is because it's profit margins are pretty slim on that, so we don't really count that, but obviously it does help. Average self-mined Bitcoin per day was 26.8. Self-mined energized hash rate was 20.4. That's what I have them at. They were 19.3. So they installed approximately 1.1 exahash in the month. Going down here, Bitcoin sold. They sold 847. So they sold obviously more than they self-mined, plus partially of what they got possibly for from the customers as well. And going down here, there was something else that I found was interesting. New miner deployments. Here we go. So the company completed deployments of its new Bitmain S21 miners with total rated hash rate of 2.5 exahash in April. Prior generation miners replaced by the new S21s are now operating at Core Scientific's Calvert City, Kentucky, and Pecos, Texas data centers. A change in mining economics may result in these prior generation miners being removed and stored, thereby decreasing the company's total operational infrastructure and hash rate. Okay, so I had to do some numbers on that, and I'll show you guys obviously in the sheets here coming up. So for Core, if we look at them, they currently have 177 million shares outstanding, right? We know that there's going to be some dilution with the warrants potentially down the road. We just don't know how much that's going to play into it. Market cap right now is at 609 million. Their stock price is at $3.43. Their performance over the last 8 weeks, they're down 10% from then. 4 weeks, they're down 1.2. Last week, they were down 3.7%. Current hash rate, 20.4. And that's basically them being fully installed with what they got recently as far as miners are installed. And I'll show you guys what I mean by that in a second here. They don't hodl anything, right? Bitcoin production here has been decreasing. And we see here another one that was up in March, in March as well. And I think, was it March that had 31 days, I think? Maybe that's the reason why some of these guys had more in March. April only had 30 days, I believe. So that could be the decrease there. Plus the halving event treated to as well a decrease in here on that side of things. Revenue. They had 61 million in March, 52.9 million. So obviously decreased. Still their second best month here in the last 12 months or so. Their hash rate has been increasing ever since pretty much, when was it? October, where they were pretty much at 15 exahash. At that point, they basically installed about 20 exahash or 25 exahash additional in the last, 6 months or so. So that's really good. BTC sold, they've been selling everything that they mine. BTC per exahash efficiency, 39.36, actually pretty good there. BTC sold value, they're selling everything that they mine. Going down here, we can see here that the institutions did increase quite nicely here for them. Actually, really good, almost doubled. 47 now from 24. Shares also increased to 32.76 million from 28.8 million. Percentage owned also went up to 14% from 11.5. So that's great there. Now we got some analysts actually providing buy ratings or sell ratings. So we have one strong buy rating, one buy rating, one hold rating, one 0 underperform, 0 sells, and we have price targets. 850 for the high, average 467, and the low at 50 cents. Okay. So that's actually pretty good there. A lot better than what we had here just in the beginning of the year at $1, right? So that has actually improved. Going down here for the month of April, we can see here that I got rid of some of the older generation miners, which they said they were replacing those. These 98 terahash miners over here. I just swapped those out and I added in the 2.5 exahash basically of what they ordered here, the 200 terahash miners here. And that got us to obviously the 20.4 exahash here. And at this point, they were operating about 29.67 days out of the month, right? And then the latest ones being added about 20 days. And I had to add about 6.4 million into the transaction fees as well for the month to get us to the 52.9 million, which obviously coincides with here. So that all worked out there. Okay, so operational side of things, doing really good here. Looking at what they could possibly be valued at, or where I think they should be more or less valued at. I think for the last, if we look at the current quarter that's estimated right now, plus the last quarter, which is obviously Q1, which is estimated also, and then Q4, Q3, which are actual numbers for them, I think they should be somewhere around $25 to like $38, right? They don't have much growth left, but they are building out, and they do have growth plans going forward. So even if we lower that to just 15, because there's really not much growth left, we're still at $19.40 to $29.11, right? If they dilute their shares even more because of the warrants, let's say they doubles to, well, that would make it, approximately 340 million shares, something like that. Half this, cut this in half. So you're looking at $9.40 to basically $15 at that point, possibly per share, right? So it's still way undervalued at $3.43. And I think the reason they're being undervalued right now so much is because the bankruptcy. The bankruptcy is going to be kind of a little, what's the best way to put it? A little cloud over their head, I guess you could say, right? It's going to follow them around for at least a couple of quarters, I think, until they can show that their numbers are really good, profitability is good, they're paying down debt, things like that. I think those things will be attributable to the stock possibly going up much higher in the long run. But right now, we're only a quarter basically out from the halving event. We'll see what those numbers come in at for them when they do report it. We'll obviously talk about it, but I think definitely they should be much more worth it. But I think, like I said, the warrants obviously are a question mark for them, right? The quarterly results, we need to see those at least 1 or 2 quarters. And I think at that point, the stock is going to be doing much better. Plus, we're also seeing institutions buying into them, and we're getting analysts covering them with much higher price targets than what we're seeing right now. So those are all positive things, which I think should lead the stock to go up much higher at this point going forward. Okay, we might still have some dips here and there, but in the long run, it should go much higher. Okay. Overall, I'm definitely liking what I'm seeing from Core here as far as operation side of things, uptime, all those things that I really care about. I'm seeing it here with Core, and Adam has been doing a fantastic job running the company ever since he took over it to get it out of bankruptcy. So kudos to him, to the team, to the entire Core team, getting things under control here. We'll obviously have to see what their expenses are like when they report Q1 numbers after bankruptcy. I think that's going to be very, very telling as well. Okay, so that's it for Core. Let's get into our next one here, which is going to be on Hut 8. So Hut 8 operations update for April. And here's what we have. So amidst the backdrop of having the operational capabilities of our team enabled us to maximize deployment hash rate as we completed the relocation of our fleet from hosted to owned facilities and brought new capacity online. Said Asher Gunut, CEO of Hut 8. At Salt Creek, we energized 63 megawatts, totaling nearly 18,000 miners just over 3 months after breaking ground at the Greenfield site, which brings our current self-mining hash rate to 5.5 exahash per second. This is a little conflicting here. They're saying 5.5 here, but down below they're saying 4.4, I think. So I'm not sure which numbers to go by. But I think this is what they could possibly get to. I don't know if everything was installed. Obviously, this would get them to 5.5 if they ever had everything installed. Maybe they didn't have everything installed at that point. Okay. We also partially energized Cedar Vale, a 250 megawatt site in Ward County, Texas, on behalf of our partner, Iconic Digital. Our managed services business continuing to serve as a key driver of our growth and profitability for Hut 8 as we navigate post-halving market conditions and execute on our restructuring plan. Okay, so that's good there. That's obviously good for the folks that are investing in, or at least were creditors in Iconic Digital. The faster they can get that place up and running for Iconic Digital, which was Celsius before, that's going to be a good thing for them. And then here we go, self-mining. We have to look at the 6 here. So going down here to 6. They have a lot of these. I can't forget what these are called. But not bullet points, but just references. So self-mining operations for Hut 8 includes 100% of operations at the King Mountain site. Okay, so that's kind of what they're talking about there. Going up over here, self-mining. So deployed miners, 44.9 thousand. Deployed hash rate, 4.5 exahash, right? So that's why I'm saying it's a little confusing. They're saying 5.5 up there, but 4.5 here. Bitcoin produced 148 BTC Bitcoin on balance sheet. 9,109. So that's a slight increase from obviously from March, which is good to see. And then you get all these other notes here as well. And then let me see here. Number 7, deployed miners are defined as those physically racked with power and networking rounded to the nearest 100 deployed self-miners, net of the 50% share of the King Mountain JV held by Hut 8's joint venture partner was 35.9 during April and 46 during March. So that's where it gets a little confusing here. The 50% share, I have to find out if that 50% share is, if they're able to use that, whatever they produce there as revenue, and can they also expense on that at the top of it, right? Usually you need to have at least a majority stake in something, so over 50%. So I don't know if they get to do that or not. I'll have to find out, obviously, when they report their Q1 results. I'll get some more information on it that way, and then maybe things will change a little bit for them. But this is the way I have to look at it right now. Okay, and let me see if there's anything else. There's nothing else here. Let's take a look at Hut in my spreadsheet really quick. So going up top, we can see here that Hut 8 has 88.9 million shares outstanding, stock price $8.85, market cap $787 million. Their performance over the last 12 weeks has been great. They're obviously up from 12 weeks ago, 19.7%. 8 weeks ago, they're down 18%. 4 weeks ago, they're down 5%. And last week, they were down 6% as well. Current hash rate 4.5, right, roughly. Future hash rate 7.3, and that was based on them having older miners as well. I'm betting that's probably going to decrease with the older miners being taken offline potentially. So we'll have to update that once we get some more information from them on the Q1 results, which will be obviously for the first quarter of the combined company. So we'll have so much better numbers than at that point. BTC HODL obviously right now 9.1 thousand here, valued at 561 million. Their HODL to market cap is 71%. That's just crazy, right? Right now, they're being valued more so on their HODL than they are in their operations or growth in hash rate or just Bitcoin self-mining in general, right? That's just huge here. It's insane, actually. That should be much, much lower like we've seen with other companies where it's around 20%, 15%, 25 maybe at the most, something like that. But this is definitely too high of a number here, so they're not being valued on their operations side of things. BTC mined monthly here. They peaked in December with 453, and it has been coming down ever since then. Quite a large decrease here from 453 down to 148 here. That's almost, a third roughly, right, of what they were mining in December. So that's a huge decrease in that. Let's see here. What else do we have here? Monthly BTC revenue. Their best month was obviously in December. March was pretty good for them as well, but they're down to 9.75 based on the numbers here. Plus, we don't know on the managed services what they're getting for that, so that's not accounted in that. We're just accounting for the self-mining here. Bitcoin HODL has increased a little bit here. It's been kind of flat here over the last couple months here, right around 9,100 or so, up and down a little bit, but it's been holding steady there roughly. Their hash rate, like I said, has been coming down here. They're moving miners around and things like that, so that's attributable to that. They might be also unplugging some older miners as well. That could be part of it as well. And then BTC sold here. They have been selling less and less each month here, which is kind of nice to see. So that's maybe a good sign there as well. BTC per access efficiency 32.91, definitely not very efficient here right now on that number. BTC sold value, how much they sold. And then going down here as far as institutions did increase here a little bit here to 165. Shares also increased a little bit to 10.8 million. Percentage-wise, increased to 12.16. We still have 0 strong buy ratings for them. We have now 4 buy ratings instead of 2. Still 1 hold, 1 underperform, 0 sells. Price targets actually came down for them now. They're at $14 for the high. That was $17.47 before. Average is now $10.20, and it was $11.19. And then the low is now $6.58, and prior to that was $6.62. Okay, so there's that operational side of things. I basically had to get them to like 46,000 miners at 4.4 or 4.5 exahash roughly. That got us that plus the 1.19 million in Bitcoin transaction fees got us to 9,750,000, which is what they have here based on the average Bitcoin price in April. Okay, so that's kind of the way things worked out. And like I said, they have some older generation miners here, which I think are probably getting unplugged. Some of these 93 terahash miners might be getting unplugged also. They don't have really good numbers on the USBTC side of things when they merged with them as far as what actual miners they had at that point and what their hash rates was. So I used just an average. What they reported is having 7.3 exahash miners, and they said they had like 75,000 miners, something like that at that point. So I got the average for the hash rate on the miners that way. Going back up here, looking at the current quarter that we're in, which is estimated, the prior quarter Q1, which is estimated in the Q4 and Q3, we really don't have good numbers on those before the merged company. So the numbers here are going to be possibly off. Okay. So I have in between $6.50 to $9.75. The numbers should get better as we get more data from them for quarterly results like Q1, Q2, and Q3. By that point, I'll have really good data on them as far as what their production was for self-mining, revenue side of things, expenses, and everything else. Right now, the data is just not good there. So take these numbers with a grain of salt. So based on this, it looks like they are just fairly valued right now, based on what I'm seeing, at least on this side of things, right? Not accounting for their managed services, how much that's bringing in, or anything else like that. Okay, so that is it for Hut 8. Let's get into our next one, which is going to be on Iren. So Iren, April 2024 monthly investor update. And here's what we have. Bitcoin mining, 358 Bitcoin mined in April, 9.4 exahash operating, 10 exahash is expected to be in May, expansion ahead of schedule, which is also good news there. Then going down here, we got the same information here, 358, and then electricity cost per Bitcoin was 19,569. Came down a little bit here from March, which is a good sign. Expansion plans, right, for this first half, 10 exahash is what their goal is, which they're saying they're going to in May, which is obviously going to be ahead of schedule, which is good. And then H2, we're looking at 20 exahash as well, so that's all good there. This is their AI side of things. I'm trying to see if there's anything else in here that's worthwhile that I highlighted. I don't think there is. You guys can obviously read all this stuff down below. Okay, I don't think I missed anything important here. If I did, let me know. But let's take a look at their numbers here for Iren. They actually had a pretty good month here as it is. And we can see that they have 141 million shares outstanding. Stock price today was $5.30. That gives them a market cap of 747 million, which is pretty good. But they're still undervalued from where I think they should be. We'll get into that in a second here. But the performance of the last 12 weeks hasn't been great. They're up 10.5% from 12 weeks ago. From 8 weeks ago, they're down 30%. 4 weeks ago, they're down 6.3. Last week, they were down 6.89. So definitely under from where they probably should be. Current hash rate 9.4. Future 20 exahash. Plenty of growth here ahead of them, which is nice to see. They don't hodl anything, obviously. That's maybe one thing I would like to see them do is maybe hodl a little bit. But we'll see if they ever change their mind on that. Looking at their BTC production here, you can see it's been kind of flat. It actually dipped here in February down to 310. Then went back up in March, 353, and they're actually up 358 right now. So they actually increased that by 5 BTC, even though we had the halving event. But they installed, obviously, a lot more hash rate. So that's offsetting the drop in Bitcoin production, or since the halving event, right? The block rewards. And then we can see here that their revenue here was 23.59 million compared to 23.9 million roughly for March. So pretty close to that as well. Bitcoin's obviously come down in price in April, right? So that's contributed to that as well. Then you got hash rate. This is nice hash rate growth ever since December. They were flat here for a while from May of last year through basically December for the most part. They installed a little bit here. 114 petahash, but after that in December, this is where they really started picking that pace up and installing quite a bit of hash rate here, 9.4 here, so about 1.4 exahash added in April alone. BTC sold, they obviously sell everything that they mine here. BTC per exahash efficiency 38.09, not too bad, not too great, right down the middle here probably when we compare all the miners here, but that's mainly because they installed quite a bit of hash rate during the month. That's going to obviously have a little bit of an offset on that. Number there, BTC sold value, you can see how much they sold here. Looking at the institution side of things, institutions also increased quite nicely for them, 97 from 88. Shares increased to 29.6 million. Percentage actually went down to 25.47, and that I think is mainly because of their dilution for the ATM, right? You can sometimes see that in these numbers here when that does happen. When shares increase, but the percentage actually goes down, well, that's usually a signal that there was dilution there. We still have 1 strong buy rating, 6 buy ratings for them, 0 hold, 0 underperform, 0 sells. Price target stayed the same here at $18.50 for the high, $11.17 for the average, $9 for the low. So those are all still really good. Going down here as far as what they installed here. In April, I installed these machines here for them, which were the 190 terahash miners, and we installed approximately the 1.4 exahash here. Based on those, and we added also 2.879 million in Bitcoin transaction fees to it to get us to the 23,585,000, and that is perfect, right on ball there. Okay, they were operating in April for excuse me, for about 29.1 days. New machines being installed on average about 20 days in the month. Okay, so really good production here, good uptime going into April for them. And then based on this, looking at the current quarter, which is estimated, the prior quarter, Q1, which is estimated as well, and then Q3, Q4, which were actual numbers, I have in between $12.79 and $19.19. They're at $5.30. I think they're undervalued right now, quite a bit here, tremendously actually. So If you guys didn't get a chance to listen to the X Space with that I hosted with the BTC mining guy, definitely take a listen to it. Dan goes on there. I think it's at I'm not gonna guess even what time that was in there, but I think the first guy up to bat was from Sato, and then we started getting on Patrick from Terrawolf, Sue from Hut 8, and after that I think it was Dan that got on after that. So it's maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours into it. But definitely check out that conversation there. A lot of great insight into his thinking, the company's kind of plans going forward and things like that, and some pretty good insight into AI as well. Okay, so overall, they're doing really good. Oh, full disclosure, I forgot to mention this. I bought Bitfarms today, and I bought Iren as well today. I'm done buying Bitfarms for right now. I have the allocation that I wanted to get to, or my goal was to get to a certain amount of shares. I have that now. So now I'll be transitioning more into buying shares in Iren going into the next, couple months, as long as prices stay relatively low. If they do. If they don't, I'm going to be kind of chasing a little bit here, but I want to have some more shares of Iren a little bit. Okay, so that's the plan going forward. So that's Iren there. And then next is obviously Riot here. So Riot announces April 2024 production update and operations update. Here's what we have here. So Bitcoin produced 375. That's obviously down from the 425. Bitcoin held increased to 8,872. Hash rate increased a little bit here. So 12.6 exahash from 12.4. So it looks like they got about 200 petahash installed at the new facility in Childress. I was hoping the numbers were going to be a little bit better than that. And maybe they get more installed. Obviously, I think they energized it right before the halving event in April. So eventually, I think in May, we'll start seeing maybe more hash rate come online as well. But I was hoping for a little bit more, but we didn't see that here. Okay, here's what we have. So in April, Riot achieved a major milestone with the energization of our second dedicated Bitcoin mining facility located in Corsicana, Texas, which occurred just ahead of the recent halving on April 20th. So Jason Less, CEO of Riot, we have already started to bring hash rate online in the first 100 megawatt building A1, and at our Corsicana facility, and continue to develop 3 additional 100 megawatt buildings, which will be completed this year. All the buildings developed at this new facility will operate latest generation micro-BT immersion cooled miners. Right, so we kind of knew that. They're still planning to get to 31 exahash by the end of the year. And let's see if we have anything else here. I think there was something else. Yeah, here we go. So as previously disclosed, in June 2023, Riot entered into a long-term master purchase agreement with MicroBT, which included an initial order of 33,280 immersion miners for the Corsicana facility effective December 1st, 2023. Riot executed a second order under the MicroBT master agreement for an additional 66,560 immersion miners, primarily for the Corsicana facility. And in February, Riot entered into a third order with MicroBT for 31,500 air-cooled miners this time for the Rockdale facility. Approximately 17 miners in the third order are expected to replace underperforming machines currently operating the facility, and the deployment of them remaining 14,500 miners will contribute additional hash rate capacity to our self-mining operations at the Rockdale facility. Right, I was hoping that this was going to be happening here shortly. I haven't seen anything on that, so that's why the numbers for them are as they are, and you'll see that in a second here. So I just want to point that out, and that is it here. Let's take a look at the numbers here, and we'll get into the Q&A side of things. Okay, so going up to right here, 271 million shares right now. We'll see, obviously, how that progresses going forward. Stock price $10.70 right now. Market cap $2.9 billion. Their performance over the last 12 weeks has been not great. Right, 1.3% from 12 weeks ago, down 36% from 8 weeks ago. They're down 8.6% from 4 weeks ago, and they were down last week, 12.66% on that. Right, and that was mainly based on their operations, uptime, and all that stuff. Right, so that's obviously contributed to that. Current hash rate 12.4, future hash rate about 40. They have plenty of hash rate growth left in them. Their BTC HODL is 8,872. Market value of that is 546 million. Their HODL to market cap percentage is 18.68, so pretty low on that, which is pretty good. So they're being more valued on their operations than they are on their HODL, which is nice. BTC production here, they peaked in December. Actually, no, they peaked in May of last year, actually. 676 at that point. It came down through the summer months where they curtailed more. And then it started going back up into the fall and winter, where they peaked in December was 619, and it's been coming back down here to 375 here. So a little bit less than half decrease from where they were. Okay, revenue side of things, here we can see that revenue peaked in March with 28.7 million. They're down to 24.71 million in April. Still pretty good here. That's probably their third best month after December. And then the BTC HODL has continued to increase as well here recently, which is nice to see. Hash rate 12.6. They were at 12.4 for about 5 months there. They're up to 12.6. A little bit of an increase there. Still an increase, still nice, but I thought that was going to be a little bit bigger increase than what we actually saw. And that's maybe why they didn't provide any information when they did release the information that they were energizing it, because the increase just wasn't that big, right? If the increase was at 1 exahash or something like that, I'm sure they would have probably included it at that point. BTC sold. This is kind of strange here. Based on what they reported and what I had for them prior, it looks like they added 7 BTC instead of selling any, right? So that could be just a rounding error on my part or their part, not sure. And their BTC per exahash efficiency is actually pretty bad, 29.72. So we'll look at that. They did curtail. They got like 2 million in credits for curtailing. Probably should have pointed that out, which I think is over here. There it is. Yeah, power credits, 0.9 million, and then demand response credits, 1.2 million. So approximately 2.1 million for that. That's obviously better than what they have gotten here in March. Okay. Let's see here. BTC sold value. Looks like they actually added some. Going down here to institution side of things, institutions did increase here a little bit here to 428. Shares actually decreased to 108 from 109 million. Percentage actually decreased also to 38% to 43%. We still have 4 strong buy ratings. We have now 8 buy ratings, so that's a decrease from 9. We have 0 holds, 0 underperforms, 0 sells, and price targets actually went down a little bit here to 25.5 from 26. Average went down to 18.5 from 20.09, and the low went down, actually up to 13.5 from $11. Okay. So that's how that's stacking up. As far as the machines here, let's see here for April. Yeah, I did not exclude any of the older miners here, which I think are going to be like some of these 90 terahash miners over here. Eventually, those are going to get taken out, but they are still operating right now based on what the numbers I have for them at least. We'll see if we can get this maybe cleaned up a little bit more, organized, going down the road a little bit more if they provide us with machines being changed out and things like that. But that got us obviously to them operating about 21.58 days on all those machines. The newer machines being installed here in April, we're operating about 20 days or so. And then I added about 3.1 million here in BTC transaction fees for them. That got us to the 24.705 million in revenue. That coincides with 24.705 here. So we're good there. Okay. Now, as far as my numbers are concerned for them, looking at the current quarter that we're in, the Q1 numbers should be the actual numbers right now, right? Because they already reported their numbers. So let's double check that if I have the current numbers for them. I do. So I'm using the actual numbers for them on that one. Okay. So now we're dealing with the current quarter that we're in, which is estimated, plus the 3 prior quarters, which are actual numbers for them. I have in between $8.07 to $12.10. They're at $10.77. I think they are pretty fairly valued right now. But based on the potential of pretty sizable future growth for them, I could definitely see them getting much more. Same for any of the miners, Iren, everybody else. If they install more hash rate and things like that, Bitcoin price goes up much higher. They can obviously have a huge impact on where I see things, right? So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. And that is it. That is everybody here. So interesting to see. We're still missing a couple miners here that need to report. Out of these guys here, I still need, who do I need? I need BitDeer to report, and I need Hive to report. Once those guys report, we'll do the monthly review of the miners as far as which ones have done the best for the month of April. Right, we'll give out a fictitious award to the best miner for April when that does happen. But that's kind of what we're dealing here with. Okay, so let's get into the Q&A side of things here. See if you guys have any questions on any of this stuff, and we'll call it a day. So today should be actually a nice day. Oh, we got through this actually pretty quickly. We got through this in about 40 minutes or so. I thought it was going to take a little bit longer than that, but we did it. Okay. Nonetheless, as always, my little sales pitch here for you guys. Patreon members get access to my spreadsheets. They get access to all this stuff here. Patreon link is down in the description. That's $8 a month. There might be some spots open in the $5 and $4 tiers as well. Those also give you access to the Discord server, which are available through all the Patreon members. And that is it. If you pay for the yearly, you get 10% discount. Okay. That's my sales pitch. That is all you get from me on that. Let's get into the Q&A side of things here, and we'll call it a day. Okay. So also, this is kind of delayed here by about 15 seconds or so. So give it time for me to see these up on screen. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Other than Bitfarms, what other miners don't qualify for the FASB rules? Thanks. Oh, who else would not qualify for that? That's a good question. Who else is not domiciled in the United States? Iren, obviously, Iren doesn't hodl anything, so it doesn't really matter there. They couldn't benefit from it anyways. Bitfarms, obviously, in Canada. Hive, also, right? They're another one. DMG, Digihost, those are the smaller miners there. I'm trying to think who else. Sato, I think, is based in Canada. Griffin, Griffin. Griffin is based in the United States. I don't know. They have a little bit of a hodl, but basically those are the ones that I can think of at the top of my head right now. Okay, you guys don't have any questions. This is going to be an easy video then. Okay, all right, I see a question here. Will Iren report positive EPS earnings? Oh, let me see. What are we looking at here for them for the quarter in Q1? Where are my numbers? Iren. Let me pull it up. For the quarter, I'm looking at 49 point. No, that's this current 53.9 million. I think they might be able to. What did they report on the prior? Let's see here. Q2, H1, Q2. What did they report on that one? How much were they off on that? They lost basically 7.2 cents roughly on it from what they reported here. So they might be EPS positive at that point. Bitcoin obviously price has gone up much higher and everything else. But it just all depends on how much is spent on other things in there. So we'll have to see. I think it'll be close. But I do think they might be able to squeak out a positive EPS. Okay. How will not using FSB for Bitfarms and Iren impact earnings and attract investors? I think for Bitfarms is more on the growth side of things. They do have a hodl position, and obviously that helps in a sense, right? You got more cash that you can possibly do with later on. But in the meantime, with them not being able to use the FASB rules, it does impact the bottom line numbers for EPS, right? They can't use that in that. Iren doesn't hodl anything, so it doesn't really matter for them. They sell everything they mine currently. If they do decide to change that, they have stated they are possibly thinking about moving their headquarters to the United States, which at that time they would be able to take advantage of the FASB rules as well. The good thing right now is at least the miners that have a hodl and are growing nicely, we're seeing that the hodl is valued less so than the actual growth in the miners, right? So if you look at, which one did we just look at? Riot, right? Was it, what, 17%? What was it, 18% of their hodl was based on the market cap? Yeah, 18.68%, right? Marathon, if we look at theirs, their hodl is valued at 19 points, so about 20% roughly if you look at it that way, or so. Right around there is valued on the hodl position, and the rest is on the operations. Let's see. I heard that Bitfarms is expected to get to 12 exahash by June and 20 by the end of the year. That's 21 exahash by the end of the year. That's their goal. They obviously need to install quite a bit here in May and in June, which they are saying that they're going to possibly get to. So we'll have to see. Obviously, trust but verify. We'll have to see if they can do that. But yeah, that's their goal. Do you think Griffin can get to 10 exahash by the end of this year, like Rob says? That might be tough. I think it's definitely doable now with the latest generation miners, right? You don't need that much. You basically need, what is it, 50? Yeah, it would be 50,000 of these 20 terahash miners to get to that. That's still a lot of money. They can do that by merging with other companies or buying out other companies, but their options are kind of slim as far as that. Their balance sheet is pretty good, but they don't have a lot of cash to go out and do that. The only thing that would be beneficial would be for somebody to join them or merge with them to get the exposure of the stock market into it as well. That's kind of, I think, what he said before. That's kind of what they're looking at for, is miners that are private that are looking to go public to kind of join forces, basically merge at that point. So that might be one way that they could do it. Let's see. Question, how do you see the miners moving forward? Will the bull run start soon for them? I mean, usually it takes a couple weeks, couple months after the halving event for the bull run to start, but this is a different bull run. We've already seen a new all-time high in Bitcoin price before the halving event, so anything's possible. Right now, today was a good price action in the miners, and I've seen this before where it seems like the miners are starting to kind of front-run Bitcoin price a little bit, and then we usually see Bitcoin price start to rocket at that point as well. we'll see if this happens this time, right? We'll give it a couple of days to see if that actually materializes or if this is just like a fake out. But right now it's kind of looking like it, so we'll have to see on that. And I think we still have at least, 11, 12, 18 months to go before we reach the all-time highs on some of these guys here. So just be patient. Do you trade options on miners or just buy the stock? I buy the stock right now. I sleep easier at night that way. I don't have to worry about it with the options. And that way it just helps me just dollar cost average into them, and I hold on to them. That way, if the price dips, I buy more. I don't care at that point. Not based on anything from today, but I sometimes see people in our Discord say players are manipulating a stock market or the market. Is this an accusation of crime, wrongdoing, clever timing, or what? I mean, what we're seeing is possibly manipulation, especially some of the miners that don't have a lot of shares, like 20 million, 30, 40 million shares, something like that. Those are easy to manipulate. You don't need a lot of cash to do it, right? It's going to be tough to prove that there's manipulation or wrongdoing or anything like that. It's just somebody, I like the stock, I'm buying a lot of it, right? Or I don't like the stock, I'm shorting it, whatever it might be. So that's always tough to prove. And obviously the big fat cats and everybody else, they say that they don't collude, they don't conspire against the retail investors. But I'm guessing that happens, right? One talks to another and so forth to another. And you get this kind of effect where it possibly could happen where the markets basically drive in one direction at the same time and then turn around and go in the opposite direction at the same time. It is what it is. But I don't know if there's any way to prove it. I'm sure, I don't know. I don't even know if the SEC is looking into it. I'm sure if they get whistleblowers or something like that, they might look into it. But yeah, it's tough. Let's see here. What are your expectations for the financial Cleansparks? I think they're going to be pretty good. Based on just the FASB rules, they're going to be like, they should get like $1 or something just for that alone. Take out any expenses from that, and we're looking maybe like 80 cents or something like that for them potentially. Kind of where I'm guessing at. I'd say maybe between 60 cents or per dollar to $1 or something, maybe, right? It just depends on how much revenue they got in from the self-mining, and then what were their expenses on top of that. Take those out, and that's kind of where I'll be looking at. If we get more than $1, that'd be great. But that's kind of what I'm expecting. Do you think we will rally now until mid-July and face a huge sell-off going into the fall like in 2023? No, it's in 2023 was a different. We were in a bear market at that point still. We should have been going down actually if we look at other cycles. So this cycle, like I said, it was different. Typically, after the halving event, Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners usually are kind of stagnant for a couple of weeks to a couple of months, and then they start rallying back up. So we'll see. I expect us to rally possibly in the fall and into the winter months as well, and then more so, I think possibly even next year, possibly, or we could get a much faster rally this time around because the cycle is totally different. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. Let's see here. Hi, Sebastian. Sorry, I wanted to clarify my question from yesterday. My current holdings are Cleanspark, Bitfarms, Cypher, Iren, Wolf, Mara at around 35, 20, 15, 15, 15, 10, 5. Wanted to hear how would you reshuffle it? Okay. So let's see here. Cleanspark at 35, Bitfarms at 20, Cypher at 15, Wolf at 15, Iren at 15, 10 for Wolf, Mara. I don't know if I would reshuffle that. That would be up to you. I think you have a good allocation in all those guys. The ones that are growing more, so Iren, which one is it? Iren's growing more than Wolf, along with Cypher. So I would maybe move Cypher down a little bit, get more into Iren. Marathon obviously is going to be growing tremendously as well. You may want to move that one up a little bit here. And then I would have maybe Cypher and Wolf towards the end there on the allocation side of things. But that's based on growth, right? Growth in the next, basically, what is it? Now we're 6 months, 7 months, right? Going into the end of the year here, the growth that we're going to see from Cleanspark, Bitfarms, Iren, and Marathon are going to be much higher than what we would see here from like Cypher and Wolf potentially. That's the way I'm looking at it. Do you think the CPI will cool down in the next couple of months? I hope it does, but I don't have a crystal ball on that. I don't know where things are going to go. It all depends on the economy and demand and the supply and demand on things. I don't know. It'd be nice if it did. Obviously, it'd be nice to have the Fed actually start lowering interest rates as well. Let's see, I listened to the X Spaces with Dan. Dan said they might be able to install an extra 3 to 5 exahash if they are able to reach 23, 25 exahash in a year. Where could you place them in tiers? Well, then they would be obviously slightly above Bitfarms at that point, right? If they could do that, which would be obviously great. I own both Bitfarms and Iren, so it doesn't really matter to me. I want them all to do well. I want all the miners to do well that are actually growing and things like that. So in tiers, I would still put them in, obviously, in the top tier, like I have them now. So you could put Marathon, Cleanspark in there, Riot, Iren, Bitfarms in there as well. Core, obviously, is a large miner. They're way undervalued as well. So those are kind of like the top tier miners that I would think of. Okay, good question here. Do you think it will be clear indication for Bitcoin top when the big ETF starts selling? Here's the thing with the ETFs. So you're talking about the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Those are obviously people that are getting into those things. Typically will reallocate their funds if they get out of whack a little bit. So let's say they put in 1% of their portfolio into the ETFs, right? If that now becomes 5% or 10% of their portfolio because Bitcoin's gone up in price, they may end up selling it anyway. So you're going to start seeing that even before we possibly reach the top, right? That's kind of what I'm expecting to happen. Will that happen? I don't know. Maybe people are a little bit smart and they'll be like, Bitcoin's going to 1 million. We're just going to hold on to it and we're not going to reallocate, right? There's multiple scenarios where we can see that happening. So it's tough. And usually we would probably see that, I'm guessing before the end of the year, right? Seeing that happen, but I don't know. We'll see. Do you think market can hit 40 before the end of the year? If Bitcoin gets out 100,000 by the end of the year, it's possible. They're at $20 now, right? That would be only a 2x for them. I think that's definitely doable. Any news on Digihost lately? Why did they move so much up a bit today, but Thursday and Friday they were up huge? You haven't seen anything from them. I'll have to take a look into it. Let's see. Mawson and Cleanspark are expected earnings calls already priced in, given the respective stock performances today. I don't think so. I think the miners are just down in general from where they really should be. They should be actually higher from where they are, in my opinion. Going into this year with Bitcoin potentially going up to 200,000 by the end of this year as well, they should be much higher. As some have mentioned above, what do you think about Riot's after its earnings report? Why is it dragging so much? I think the main thing was if personally speaking here, I didn't really like the SG&A side of things where they included what was like 30 some odd million in stock-based compensation. I don't know if that's having a drag on it, but that obviously didn't sit well with me a little bit. Other than that, the numbers were actually not that bad. They were actually pretty good. And it's nice that they actually had a conference call this time around. So I think it was just mainly Bitcoin coming down in price. Maybe that, the rewards there also kind of played into a little bit. Not sure. Let's see. Bitcoin still looks like it's in a downtrend. Do you suspect any more discounts? Feeling a little FOMO. If you get them, obviously dollar cost average in if you can. It's kind of what I'm going to be doing. I bought today. I wanted to buy last week I didn't, so I bought today. And then I'll probably buy again next week. So if we get discounts, I'd love it because I know we're still early here. And it's going to be at least another, like I keep saying, 12 to 18 months before we, hit tops. So that's where I would stand on it. Do you think if Iren reports positive earnings, they will rally hard like Cleanspark did back in February, considering that if BTC also rallies after the earnings? Yeah, if they report pretty good earnings where they're positive on the EPS side of things, that would be a good sign, obviously, right? And then them growing now recently, their hash rate nicely, that's also a good catalyst going forward. Dan stating that they could possibly get to like 23, 25 exahash by the end of the year, potentially even. Those are all good signs there. So I think it could happen. We'll have to see. It just all depends on sentiment of investors on them. We're obviously seeing institutions buying into them as well, so that's a good sign there. Let's see here. Why is Bitfarms share price lower than Iren when they're operating at similar levels? Do you think it's a justified gap between the two? Well, depends on the number of shares outstanding. If we look at this number of shares, Iren, let me see here what I have for Iren. Iren has, let's see here, Okay, so here's the difference. 141 million shares for Iren. Bitfarms has 300 some odd million here. 334 million. Pretty much basically a double of that. So if Bitfarms had the same number of shares, they would be at like $4 at this point, pretty much closer to where Iren is. Iren's also at 9.4 exahash right now. Bitfarms currently is at 7 exahash, right? So there's a little bit of gap there, so that's why you're seeing that difference in price as well. But the big thing that you want to take a look at is the market cap. Bitfarms is at 641 million, and Iren, I'm looking at it right now, is about 747 million. So that's kind of what you're seeing there. Here we go. If Riot executes on their 2024 plans and doesn't absolutely curtail their life away and Bitcoin does its thing, Riot will be fine. The if is the question. Yeah, the if is the question, right? So we need trust that they're going to be operating at a much higher capacity, much higher uptime, but we need to verify it, right? We need to see that in the numbers as they get obviously installed in Corsicana. And at that point, we can then say, okay, yeah, they're operating much better uptime, efficiency is much better, things like that. Their Corsicana facility is going to be their basically crown jewel, right? So if they can do that, I think the stock will do much better going forward. Would you say your play with Cleanspark is the reason you're holding more riskier miners like Bitfarms and Iren because worst case Cleanspark will carry you through the loss? No. The reason I got into Bitfarms also was I'm seeing the same things that I saw in Cleanspark back then when in 2022 when nobody was in love with Cleanspark, right? Everybody was in love with Marathon, Riot, Hut 8. Who else were they in love with at that point? But those stocks, right? Cleanspark was a nobody to everybody. It was a newcomer. But I just saw the continued operations, the uptime, things like that. And I saw the same thing with Iren and I saw the same thing with Bitfarms. But I saw that with Bitfarms earlier on. I want to get to Iren actually in 2022, but they returned like 3.5 exahash of their miners because of the special purpose vehicles that they had loans on, and they defaulted basically on those. They had to return them. At that point, I had put a pause on thinking about investing in them until I saw some better operations from them and growth going forward because there was just a lot of unknown on them. When things started to get better and we started seeing a clear pathway for them to grow their hash rate back in last year, I started buying into Iren in like November, December of last year. And I've been buying into them ever since, much slower amounts than I've been buying into Bitfarms. But now that's going to change. I'm going to be buying more into Iren instead of Bitfarms because I have the allocation that I want in Bitfarms. Okay. Which miners do you think will issue its first dividend or buybacks? I've heard Wolf and believe Iren too would like to do this one day, and if so, by when? Okay, I'll be completely honest with you guys. I don't believe any of them will do that. Not unless Bitcoin continues to rally going forward. So meaning we no longer have these corrections where we go down 60-80% in Bitcoin, miners go down to basically crap during that time frame, right? If that doesn't happen, maybe at that point they could possibly do it. But if Bitcoin stays up, the other side of this is you're going to have the network hash rate is going to also continue to go up, right? Which is also going to impact the revenue side of things. So it's not something that you can predict here. You can't predict that you're going to be selling, a fidget, whatever it might be, for X, and it costing you Y to do it, and you can predict that you're going to be selling, 50 million of those things a month. It's not as easy to do that with Bitcoin. You have a lot more variables that are at play here that you don't have control over, unfortunately, as a miner. So with them saying that, and I've heard this before, I've heard this from other miners saying this prior cycle as well, and it never materialized, right? Because it's just, from what I've seen at least, and maybe that changes over time, but from what I've seen in the past at least, is with all the variables in Bitcoin, the Bitcoin price, the network hash rate, the transaction fees, the blocks getting halved every 4 years, there's a lot of uncertainty that they can't control. Unfortunately, that makes it a lot more difficult to then say, yeah, we're going to go forward and give, 1%, 2% dividends or something like that. But at some point, Bitcoin goes down and you can't do that anymore, right? So I think it would be foolish of the miners to do that, at least right now, until we have a couple years where Bitcoin is steady, in price, hash rate is steady in price, or hash rate is steady as well, where the revenue is more consistent and they can kind of count on that more regularly, I guess. Okay, so that's just my take on it. Let's see. Do you trust Bitfarms to be operating on high uptime? Let me see. They reported already. What did I have for them? For the most part, I would say yes. Let me see here. They were at 38.4. They were down, let me see here, in April. They removed some of the older miners. They installed some of the newer miners as well. For the old machines that were already running, they were running at 30 days. And newer ones came in at 23 days and 24 days roughly. That's how I calculated it. So yeah, I do think they have very good operations and good uptime generally each month. Okay. Let's go back here. With Bitfarms having double the shares outstanding compared to Iren, does that not mean that it's easier for Iren to go up higher than Bitfarms? Yeah. I mean, you're basically the number of shares, right? But their price also at twice of what, 2.5x of what Bitfarms is right now. So Bitfarms is like $2. Iren's at $5. So you get that offset anyways, because if you look at the market cap is really what's important there. The market cap could go up the same for these guys, and they could still obviously be doing so. I would say it's more even than anything if you really look at it into the details of it, because if Bitfarms goes up, let's just say 10x, that would give them a market cap of $6 billion. And if at that point, that would be probably what, 10x, that would be at $12. So they're still going up 10x. So if you look at the X percentage-wise increase, right, percentage increase, they're both going to do the same thing, whether it's going from $5 to $50 or from $2 to $20. You're still getting the same, basically, play, because you can buy more shares of one. You have to buy a little bit less, so you're getting the same outcome, I guess, right, is what I'm trying to say. Do you have any updates on the Paraguay ban? I do not, but like I said before, that's not going to impact Bitfarms. It's only for new miners if it does happen, which I don't even think is going to happen, actually. We haven't really seen anything. I think it was just a FUD story on it. Let's see. Is it difficult to keep a Hive uptime? How do you know the miners will keep their uptime high? Well, we can see it on their operation side of things, right? I know what machines they have installed. We know how much they basically mine each month. We can run the math on it and see what their uptime is based on it. So that's kind of easy to see. Okay. Jose, thank you for the comment. And I think that's it. I think we're done here. So, all right, we're going about, what are we at? An hour. Perfect. So we went for an hour. We got through all the questions and everything else. What's going on this week? Obviously, we have more operation updates. We have some more quarterly results as well coming up. That'll be fun to get. Obviously, we'll do some deep dives on those. And what else do we have coming up? Saturday, I'm going to be joining the BTC mining guy again. This time we're going to be doing it a little bit later. We're going to be doing it at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on Saturday. Okay. I think we might have the folks from BitDeer on this Saturday. We'll see. But I think that's the plan there. And then we'll see if anybody else joins. Obviously, anybody from the Bitcoin mining community, companies or anything like that is more than welcome to join the spaces as well. We'd love to have you on there. It's always great to get your insights and things like that. Okay. So that is it. Right. Yeah, that is it. I hope you guys have a great night. We'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll see what kind of updates we get then, and then we'll progress going forward. But we're still early. Be patient out there, okay? That's it. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys next one.